introduction and the invitation for me to speak here tonight. And before I start, I would like to say a few words in Greek. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για την ευκαιρία απόψε για μπορώ να μιλήσω εδώ, γιατί είναι εδώ που έμαθα τα ελληνικά από το 2012 και είναι για μένα μια μεγάλη χαρά για να μπορώ να δώσω κάτι πίσω από την δουλειά μου σε αυτή τη σχολή. Many people, indeed, I would say, World War II engaged millions and millions of human lives, human beings all over Europe, and they left traces in the national identities, in the family memories, in people's minds, and in the collective memory of the nations, of the cities, of the people. And I would like today to speak about part of my research that is, which has a focus on the German point of view on the war, during the war, the German perspective, the perspective of the German soldiers on their war, on their path through the war, through Europe between 1939 and 1945. And this is part of my research that I have conducted in France and now in Greece. And I would like to present you some of my results, which of course will be only a very few. And I would like to insist also that my research about Greece during the occupation is really at its beginnings still. I'm mostly working with German language sources until I can use more Greek language sources. So I would like to start with a little trip through the region of Attica, a virtual trip, of course, and from one lieu de mémoire to another one. And maybe some of you will recognize these places. Can everyone see correctly the satellite pictures? So this was the one place, and here is the other one. Maybe some of you know these places, very significant memorial sites in Attica for World War II. This is the German military cemetery in Dionysos, and this one is the Commonwealth cemetery in Falido. Very easy to see that the British Commonwealth cemetery is integrated into the city landscape of Falido, while the German one lays on the eastern slopes of the Pfende Mountains in a very remote area. So I would like to say that just as these cemeteries, one could say that the national narratives of the one and the other, of both main opponents of the Western Allies and the Germans, have a similar facet today in the overall narrative and the official discourse about World War II. The one is rather integrated and commonplace, while the other narrative, the other side of the war is isolated, and for some parts the perspective of the Germans has been neglected. Often books speak about the German occupation, but they neglect the German identity as such. Who were these Germans after all? And this is what I want to talk about tonight. So this is the outside view from the German military cemetery in Dionysos, which counts almost 10,000 German graves. Almost 10,000 German soldiers are buried there. The cemetery has been created in 1975 and was basically the assembly of many isolated war graves all over Greece that have been created locally by the Germans during the war, and that have after the war have been exhumated and brought together to constitute what is now the biggest German military cemetery in Greece. So this is, for example, a temporary military cemetery
war graves close to the Corinth Canal.
Of the German paratrooper units. A picture that comes from a photo album of German soldiers' memorial, the book of the war. This is the inner layout of the cemetery, where in each of these lines are around 850 German soldiers buried, and on these plates are written their names. So when you walk there, you can read these names, you can see the identities of these people, or get grasp on their age, on their names, which might sound familiar when you are German or you have already traveled to Germany. But then there's these stories that come out of this of these war graves, of these names, these anonymous names that are interesting because they don't fit this overall image we have of the war. For example, here I found by chance, because I cannot read the 10,000 names. It's not an open database that you can do full text research. So you walk there and there's a name that strikes your eye, and in this case, Konstantin Athanasiou. Doesn't sound very German to me, but I was interested in the fact why was he buried in a German military cemetery. So I did my little research in Germany in the military archives, and it turns out that he's a German of Greek origins, married to a German who got German citizenship, and who was enrolled into the German army. But he died in July 1944 from appendicite here in Greece. The interesting fact about this is to see that, like most armies that act over large areas of the continents, there is a pragmatical use for special knowledge among the army. The German army, the same as the British or the American army, they would not waste, let's say, Greek-speaking soldier for employment in Denmark or in France. The Greek-speaking German soldier will most likely be sent to Greece because this is where he will be most useful for intelligence, for communication with the locals, for enforcing of German administration rules. So, and it turns out that this Konstantin Athanasiou was part of a training unit of the German military intelligence, of the Abwehr, and that he was most probably being trained here as part of the Regiment Kurfürst to serve as a spy probably, or as a local correspondent for the German military administration. This hints to the overall organization of the German army in Europe, and how they recruit their soldiers and how they employ them in Europe in the different units. And there is an interesting contrast between the conception of the occupation from the point of view of the occupied countries, in contrast to the point of view of the Germans. This was, of course, very different because the Germans were in power, but not only because of that. It was different because for the occupied nations, it was a period of time in Greece from 41 to 44. For other parts of Greece, for example, around Chania, around 45, when the occupation took place. But from the German point of view, there were very few German soldiers who, after all, stayed for 4 years in Greece. They stayed maybe for only 2 months, and then they were sent by their own army to another theater of operations. I have the example of units, of specialized units, of mountain units who were first sent to France in 1940, who were then employed in France to train for the planned landing in England, which did not take place, and who were then sent to the Balkans and to Greece before being sent again to Russia. So there is this system of rotation of the units that is a very important it's a very important phenomenon from the German point of view, because it's a certain they don't rest, they don't take the time, if I may say, to stay in a place and to get to know the country that they are staying in. Without interruption, the units change places almost all the time. The soldiers within these units are also rotating from one unit to another. So even if in the archives, like this list that I have here, for example, that is from the German military archives in Aibo, is a list of the units stationing in the city of Athens in April 1944. This is, I think, 12 or 20 pages document that details the exact names of the units that are being stationed in Athens in April 44 with the name of the unit, the exact postal address, and even their phone number, and the number of officers, non-commissioned officers, and troops. This is a very precious document for any historian, of course, because it gives a insight into how the Germans occupied the country and what types of units were used in Greece to occupy the country. But on the same time, this is only one moment view. It's not something that we have to imagine as something steady over the years. 1 week later, this list is not valid anymore for a big part of it, because some units might have been moved to other parts of Greece or even to other countries. So this shows how I think how mobile this occupation was, and how these German soldiers were transported from one area of Europe to another, of course without them having a say in this. The German soldier could not, of course, decide. This might sound obvious, but I think it's important to remind this, because the German soldier was only 30%, roughly 30% of the German soldiers were volunteers. The others were recruits that had to do their military service in a certain sense, and then were sent either first to their training camps in Germany and then abroad. Among these 30% of volunteers, there was a certain amount of volunteers that volunteered to come before the order of recruitment, so that they could choose at least, let's say, the type of weapon they would serve. Some would want to fight in the Air Force, or some would want to go to the German submarines. So they knew that they would receive the order of recruitment anyway, and they would then become a volunteer, because this at least gave them the choice to at least have a little choice on their life during the war. So this gives also an insight into the organization and how the responsibilities and the hierarchy is divided into many little units, and the chain of command is quite long for the German army, and this has also a purpose in dividing the responsibilities during atrocities, for example, and war crimes that they commit in Greece. It shares the responsibility in a certain sense. Everyone is only responsible for a little part of the whole. What sources do we have to get to know these soldiers, to get to know their state of mind, what they were thinking about, how they experienced their life during the war, and their presence here in Greece, for example. One of the sources are the German letters, as John mentioned before. This is one of the sources that I am working with to analyze the mentality of the German soldiers. So here we have
one page of a letter that counts
overall 7 pages of a German soldier who is based in Athens
in March 1944.
And as you can see, it's not easy, of course, to read these letters and to make use of it as a historian. It requires lots of time to analyze this type of source, and lots of it's very tricky, I would say, because the handwriting of every soldier is different. You have to read again and again the letter to fill in the blanks. Some words you might recognize them, others will remain a mystery until the last end, and then you make it kind of a guess, and then you think this must be the word, and then the whole thing comes to make sense. So this letter, I transcribed it. I will not translate it because it's not that interesting after all. I found out afterwards. if I would have known before. But it gives anyway, it gives an insight into the mentality of the German soldiers. It's a very precious document. One might think, he's in Greece, why doesn't he talk about Greece? Yes, probably because he doesn't care. Probably because he doesn't want to be here. Probably because he's missing home. He wants to be in touch with his family. He wants the war to stop, one way or the other. He has not chosen to be there. He uses these letters to create and to maintain a certain state of normality in spite of the war. It was essential for the German soldiers to keep in touch with their home, so that they could see the purpose of their staying abroad for the war. This is why for the German army it was a crucial measures to maintain the flow of letters between Germany and the most remote places in Europe during the war. It was a huge organization. German soldiers between 1939 and 1944 sent some 30 billion letters. It was lots of ink, lots of paper, and lots of transport, lots of freight, sometimes by airplane for islands in the Aegean. They had postal planes. Then it would go to Italy, where they would be put on trains, and there would logistics centers in Milan, for example, and then these letters would be dispatched to Germany. Other letters would be sent to other parts of occupied Europe, to comrades, because one soldier could write to his brother that would be in Russia, for example. All he had to do is to put the number of his unit, the postal number in a certain sense, that were top secret numbers, because there were only few agencies in the German army could decode these numbers to know which unit it was and where this unit was located at this moment. So it was a very vital tie between the Germans and the homeland. And just to give an idea, it is an accepted idea that Greece was occupied by the Germans, but Greece is very far away from Germany. It's this connection that was essential for the Germans to fight this war in a certain sense. Required lots of logistics to maintain this everyday feeling of contact with the home. Greece is among the most distant places from Germany of the parts of Europe that were occupied by the Germans. Soldiers that were, you could not be further away from Germany as being in Crete, for example. It was the biggest distance, up to 2,000 kilometers by average. But these letters, they were also a means for the Germans to organize their thoughts and organize their experience during the war. Not necessarily by describing everything by exactly how it happened, but simply by sitting down at a table a few hours per day or a few hours per week and writing a letter and having and organizing the thoughts about what they had experienced. And this is important when you consider that not all soldiers who were involved in war crimes in Greece wrote about them. because it was something that they could not communicate to their families, but the lack of expression of these events in the letters, or the direct expression of these events in the letters, does not mean, of course, that these soldiers did not experience or witness atrocities and war crimes against the local population. It simply means that they thought that, first of all, there was a censorship for German letters in the military correspondence that was not very thorough, because there was way too many letters being sent. But also because they did not want to confront their families at home with what they experienced abroad. They didn't want to put a burden on them in a certain sense. They kept it to themselves, but you might find indirect information about what they experienced. So, what can we learn from these letters more generally about the mentality of the German soldiers in Greece, especially? The fact that the occupation of Greece for the German army and for Nazi Germany was a very important ideological purpose also, not only strategical. In the German Nazi ideology, the ancient Greeks were considered cousins of the Aryan race, because the Nazi ideologists considered that only members of the Aryan race were creators of culture, and as such, the ancient Greeks could only have been part of this big Aryan family in Europe. So, in the Nazi ideology and in the Nazi propaganda, the occupation of Greece was in a certain way the opportunity to reconnect the ancient history of Greece and this alleged connection to the Aryan race to the Nazi modernity. And this is something that you can find in many documents of that time, especially in propaganda documents, but also, and I will come to this a bit later, in the personal documents of the soldiers. So the official line is, we create this bridge between Nazi Germany and our long-lost Aryan cousins in Greece. And for example, this painting by Hans Liska is a propaganda picture, of course, shows this bridge between the Nazi modernity, which is here represented by the German Luftwaffe, here the Stuka airplane that comes back from a mission in Crete, and the Acropolis in the back. Here's another example for this bridge. I guess this is also the Acropolis, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think this is inspired. It's a postal stamp from the Marshall Islands that I found by chance. But it again shows this bridge that is being created between Nazi modernity through the Luftwaffe and the remains of ancient culture. This is something that is not only rooted in the Nazi ideology in Germany, but that goes back also to the traditional German education, which wants that the humanistic education at school, people learn first Latin as a foreign language and then ancient Greek, and then only French, if at all. So this connection to ancient Greece is a very important one for the Germans in comparison, for example, with the French that are more oriented to Rome. Germany had always had, as I think, this stronger connection to the legacy of ancient Greece. So this is something that then the simple soldier or the more educated soldiers take as an opportunity when they come to Greece to see for real, for the first time, all these places that they have heard about during their years at school and at university. It's for many German soldiers, it is an important experience when they arrive in Greece, and that you can feel in the letters a certain pride to step on the Greek soil for the first time. So So here's an example of a German soldier who writes at home in April 41 when he arrives in Greece, and he says, I can roughly translate, he writes to his wife, the service here is until now very quiet. Yesterday I had personal leave, I can read here of course also. I had a personal leave yesterday and could visit all kinds of remains from the classical times. For example, in Amphipolis, among these, a very beautiful head of a woman as a half-relief. My first encounter with the ancient Greek world on Greek soil. And this is not an exception, this is something that many German soldiers write about when they come here. And there is not a few soldiers who visit during their personal leaves ancient sites, or sometimes even do amateur archaeology on the countryside. Some want to visit the Acropolis, bien sûr, and others want to visit the places of ancient Greek literature. So there has an important significance for the German soldier. So there is this, on the one hand, this educational component that goes back to the school years of these German soldiers, where they learned about ancient Greek history. Their encounter with the reality here in Greece. And there is this moment also of a certain disappointment for many when it comes to modern Greece. Because they have this very strong image of ancient Greece, they of course compare indirectly what they see of modern Greece today with what they imagined ancient Greece would be, considering what they knew about ancient Greece. So they are looking for, actually you can feel that this propaganda and the ideology has a strong impact on the simple soldier. You can see it in their letters, because they will say, for example, this is nothing as we imagined. There are no blonde Greeks and with blue eyes, or very few. And what a disappointment! The Greek race has been, the blood has been corrupted by Slavonic and Turkish invasions. So there is a strong disappointment, because they think to know from what they had learned before. So they put this in perspective in a certain sense. But it's very difficult to generalize, of course. But this is a component that I have found in a certain number of letters, and is a way of talking that comes back again and again for these Germans that make this first encounter with Greece. Other soldiers have a more differentiated viewpoint on Greece. Maybe this can be connected to a level of education, or socio-professional background, but also to a certain personal will to be curious, to get to know more in the foreign country, and to get to know the people who live here. Because it's important to see that not all the German soldiers wanted to get in touch with the Greeks during their stay here. Some simply wanted to stick to their German comrades and take advantage of their personal leaves for. There was all this system of German entertainment that was supplied by the German army, cinemas and places where they could play football. So they would really stay within the military camps, most of them. But a small part of these soldiers, and also of course depending on where they would be stationed in Greece, some of them would go to meet the Greek population and to try to make their own idea about the people that they met during the occupation. Of course, also because in a big city like Athens, for example, there was different possibilities for organized entertainment for these German soldiers, while in small villages on the countryside there was not much to do. So also these very simple aspects of the German occupation. So one important source we have for this differentiated image on the Greeks by a German soldier is the letters of a German staff surgeon, Dr. Hans Löwer, who was based in Milos from 43 to 44. And we have the chance to have in edited form the letters that he wrote to his family every Sunday for more than a year. And they give a very interesting and differentiated image about his own experience with the Greeks in Milos. It's interesting to see that you find also in his letters these references to ancient Greece. For example, he is very proud when he finds the spot where the Venus de Milo has been found, and he really wants to visit this place because he says something like, when I was in Paris last year, I didn't take the opportunity to go to the Louvre and to see this statue. But when he's in Milos, he wants to see the spot where it has been discovered. But he has a very interesting relation to the Greeks, because although he is a surgeon for the German Navy and in charge of the health of the German troops, he takes the initiative to build a hospital on that island on his own with the few means that he has. He creates a good relationship with the Greek doctors on the island, and they help each other in treating cases of Greeks who need immediate care and who need operations for some of them at a time when it was very difficult for them to get to Athens because there was no surgeon in Milos, and Dr. Löwer was basically the first surgeon on Milos, and he created this hospital out of nothing in a certain way. He asked colleagues in Germany to send him information on certain complicated eye operations, and he operated, if I remember well, up to 200 Greeks on Milos. And in his letters he describes this everyday relations that he has with the locals, and he is very much amazed by the hospitality of the Greeks. And but he is of course also a German. He's a German officer who has his duties on Milos, and he is a patriot. He wants the final victory of Germany. There is no alternative in his mind. Although he's becoming a friend of the Greeks, for him, in his personal accounts, there is only the possibility of German final victory. He is convinced that there will be no other possibility for Germany. He actually dies in Milos in December 1944. He's killed in an operation by the Greek resistance. But it's this kind of complex personality that on the one side is a very typical German officer. On the other side, he takes advantage of him being in Greece to get to know the people, to make most out of his stay in a certain way, and to build very strong connections. And even today, people in Milos remember the surgeon Löwer. So this is the complexity of this reflects the complexity of the German mentality during the war, during the stay abroad and in Greece in particular, and the letters are a very important source for this research. And as I said before, I'm at the beginning of this analysis that I make, and I'm really looking forward to improving my Greek so that I can also read more about the Greek side of this, because in the end my purpose is, my goal is to put both point of views together for the same events, and to see how there is a history that is being written on both sides for the same event, but with totally different point of views and with totally different framework of cultural references. So now, to come to an end of this lecture, I would like to show this picture because it just shows how many different life paths this war has created, and how many stories and facts we can still learn from personal archives, from files that are sleeping in family, in the families, in the photo albums, in boxes, in Germany mostly, and that would help, of course, understand the events of World War II by putting together both point of views. Thank you very much.